Okie doke. So, this time we're going to be playing on Eichenwalde. We're playing against Trap's team again. Trap is on defense, I believe. Trap's team is on defense, I believe, first. With the red team on attack. We're going to be paused for a second. This time we're trying out two new tanks. We're trying out Goldmane and Animent. So they're going to be switching out throughout the night. We can see how they work together. And that should be good. Blue team, Trap's team, said that they're having in their A team today, so they're going to be putting in their best players. So that should be their main thing. So we're going to see how they work together on that front then. All right. Well, one thing we have to watch for is whether the red team on Eichenwalde, they have to be able to push past that small choke point. So it really depends. With dive, you have to dive straight for them. There's no real walking up on this map, which is what you want to be able to do with Winston or Diva. You want to be able to walk up and then have that leap for either pursuit or escape. But you can't really do that if you hold in the right spot. If you hold in between that car and that pillar that we're looking at down there, that little broken down one, you have good sight lines, and especially if they're running anti-dive, which it looks like they're running a variant of with the Reinhardt, which actually kind of works on this map because the Reinhardt has he can get pretty close to the choke and swing around and block people off from getting through the hallways. I still think Orissa's better if you're keeping those giant sight lines, but Ryan can work. So they're running the anti-dive. The blue team is with Junk and with Hog. So they're going to try and see if they can prevent that, and especially if the red team has to push straight through mid, that's going to be if they can play conservatively and make sure that their Zen doesn't go down. If they play their Zen farther back, it should work out pretty well for them. Really got to watch positioning, and yeah. So like if big things to watch for are hooks on the Tracer, Mercy or Zen. If like really the tanks need to try Goldmane needs to try and use his bubble to bait out the hook, to take down that cooldown so people can push in, not have to worry about that. Tig needs to be paying close attention to people who get hooks and have some of that defense matrix up so she can protect people. With a Hog on, that's like really, really what Diva's main focus. Well, not main, but like it needs to be up there. You need to focus on that because the ability to just cancel out a hook altogether, just like with the Zarya, like that's big. You need to keep an eye on that. Let's see. What we really need to see do is like what's going to be tough for the blue team is if they lose the first point, then they have to switch onto the dive comp in 4 second streets phase, because dive is very powerful because there's that bridge you can drop down on people with. If they do that, it's going to hard reset their ults, and if they don't do that, then they're going to be at a disadvantage for the second part. Looks like we're setting up now. Just setting up my cameras so I can have an easy place to turn to if I need to.
Attackers incoming in.
Let's see where they're setting up. Oh, they switched to the Orisa instead, so that's good. That's what they want. And I don't know if that shield's where they're going to set up. That's where they need to set up right there, because that gives them the giant sight lines they can spray through. They can spam Junk into that, and that'll be really good. Let's see if I can get a better view.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
Alright, let's see how red can set up on this.
Defend objective A.
Blue's doing a good job holding back. They're playing very, very close together. I think their blue team's Zen should play a little farther back. It looks like red team is setting up through the right side. They're doing the Pharah. They're doing pharmacy dive. Tracer's looking to get to the right side. Pharah is playing very aggressive here and gets discorded right away. She goes down a little bit, but then the dive comes in, and immediately everyone scatters. Junk needs to be there, and he's pushing himself back with his concussion mines, which makes it harder for him to get kills in. But it looks like they are able to get the monkey down, which is going to cause them to reset. They've moved back to the point, and red team has now taken down both their primary healer and the Junkrat, which is going to take a lot of damage. They need to focus down that pharmacy. If they can get a hook on any of that, they keep missing hooks, which isn't good. And having that shield, having them just push past the shield, that's going to be really rough. They needed to punish Jelly when... that's a good pick on Tracer, but they needed to punish Jelly on the Pharah when they pushed in and were lost without their Pharah. They should have been able to do that with their Soldier and with their Orisa, if they kept a halt open so they could take that, that's going to be a big deal. It looks like they're sticking with the anti-dive comp, which is going to make it very difficult for them, because with this castle, you have to have, like, dive is very, very powerful because you can drop onto the healers or onto their backline from the top castle, and the blue team is very split here. It's allowing red team to just rain down on them. They're trying to get the damage onto Orisa, or the Orisa trying to get damage onto the Pharah, but they just back up and are going to keep on raining down damage. And that's gonna be rough. Here comes an ult from Pharah, and the Hog finally gets her down, but not after she takes down the Orisa and the Mercy, and that's gonna cause a pretty hard reset. Red team has a giant ult advantage on just in general, but blue team's catching up. They shoot the ult in through the ceiling and get someone with it, and now they're just spawn camping them. They res that, and they're leaving the payload slow, but they're spawn camping, which is going to be good because it's going to allow them to catch up. And as they push out, they're just getting taken out one by one. It's going to make it very difficult, and that's what I'm talking about. Is you need the dive, or you need the Orisa to push through, and the reason that she got staggered out there, you need to be able to push through with your team. You need to put a shield up, and now there's a stagger here, and it's going to allow them to just dive forward and stagger them out. The Zen and the Mercy are trapped in there, and that's going to they're going to get the payload pretty far. Hog starts to push forward by himself. Tig saves the hook, but yeah, they're pushing forward, kind of staggered. They need to group up. That Junk's probably gonna get dived. That was over aggressive dive there, and yeah, he's gonna be punished for it. Tig gets trapped, and they're popping a lot of ults here. I hope they don't use any more. They don't need to, but yeah. So where that went wrong is it looks like they dived without being coordinated, and then. It looks like Goldmane didn't know exactly where he was jumping on. He just kind of jumped in between them and allowed everyone to punish him very easily. And then Tig kind of followed up behind, but it didn't end up going that well. Yeah. Now it looks like they're the Tracer's kind of causing problems with backline, and that's not allowing them to group up very well. That's a good placement of the damage. It's the bongos. It's behind the payload, so it's hard for them to get damage on it, but she needs to keep the shield up. And there comes that right after they put down the shield, and they don't have anywhere to go. And that's a great ult by Tig. And that's going to cause them to be staggered. They don't have the shield tank anymore. Soldier is trying to do the best he can. He should just run out of there. And he does so. That's what you need to do. You need to group up. The payload still has some time. You can still group up as a team. They switched to the Reinhardt instead of the Orisa, which is going to allow them to push through a little bit easier. Pharah looks like she's kind of camping that back door. Zen trans, but the monkey is keeping him in the door, so he's not going to be able to get out and heal the rest of his team. It's very well played by Goldmane. If you can use Primal to keep the Transcendence away, it's great. That's exactly what you should be doing right now. Mercy's trying to keep up, but finally Goldmane notices. Mercy Guardian Angel's away, which is going to leave Goldmane without his his ult, but at least he forced her off the high ground. Now they're just kind of forcing people away. Hog uses ult in just kind of desperation, but it doesn't look like much is going to end up happening here. They're still stalling. May's on point, but she doesn't have Ice Cube, and Hog is still trying to do something, but the ult comes in from above, and they don't have any counter to that. They stalled for a good while, but as soon as that ult came in, as soon as Goldman used his, as soon as the Orisa on blue team used her shield, and Tig realized that and shot the ult in, and like there's just great ult spots for her, because like if you're playing up by these stairs, no one can really run anywhere. You have to be prepared for that, and you have to play your shield farther back when the D.Va has bomb like that, so you can flip to the other side if it's coming on one side or the other. But Dread put the shield farther up, and so they had nowhere to hide, and Tig recognized that, I think, and just shot the ult forward, which was well done on her part. Alright, let's go reset. Back on point A. It looks like red team is going for the anti-dive as well. Pretty much the same exact comp, except I'm pretty sure blue team had a Mercy. And red team is opting for the Ana instead. Blue team is on the dive comp, but they're running a Mei. I don't know how that... They have a couple options here playing with the Mei. They can wall off front and allow them to push forward a little bit easier, which does give them the walk-up option. I was talking about how it's hard for dive on this little first choke point, because you can see very easily when people are coming and you can shoot them, but if they Mei wall in front, that allows them to walk up, then they disappear that, and then they're on top of them, and it allows them to have the leap and the rocket boosters to disengage or pursue, which can be a great strategy if you play it out right. The red team looks like they're playing by the cart as well, but it looks like they're playing a little bit farther forward. I don't know about that strategy. Soldier's gonna look for some chip damage right off the bat. It looks like, yeah, here comes the blue. Trying to get the full screen in here. So it looks like blue's rotating underneath. They're getting focused by the soldier fire, which bumps hot side up. Yep, they seem to, oh, so they're rotating instead. That's unfortunate. I don't know if Dread meant to do that or not. But like they did it well. They knew what they were doing on this point, and it's a good strategy, but you have to be able to pull that off. You have to connect the Mei wall. They could peek on both sides of that, and so it didn't work out, and it's going to leave them staggered. They just need to die or jump off the wall at this point, because they're not going to be able to do this with the stagger that they have. They might just get chased, in which case a big stagger could happen. They need... With the Mei wall, what I was saying is they need to connect it so the enemy has no line of sight on one side, and they have to rotate all the way around the wall to get good line of sight or break through it. If they're going to do that to rotate around the left side, they have to do that, but Dread can't, like, that. You have to be able to do that. Okay, so they're doing a really close wall. Yeah, and the junk hunts out the Genji. Like, the wall strategy can work. It's a strange one. But you have to know what you're doing. Hot Sauce looks like he switched to Pharah instead of the soldier at this point. I guess he got taken down at some point. The halt is good. It pulls them in and it allows the hog to move up. He was moved up a little far, and I wish they could have got punished by that, but with the junk and with the Pharah, so much damage is coming through the point that it's going to be tough for blue team to really get anything done. Here. Blue team's trying to set back up. They went dive again. Monkey. Okay. So that was funny. Monkey used his leap to get back up onto the high ground, but then then the D.Va charged and Monkey didn't have his leap, but they EMP'd the Monkey forward into them. But the D.Va went left side, Monkey went forward, and it just allowed them to focus. It wasn't a very coordinated dive, and that caused them to lose that fight. Red team has a giant ult advantage here. with and there's the traps that's trying to catch people. But the red team has a giant ult advantage. We're gonna initiate with the Riptire to see if they can catch anyone. Riptire is really good on this map because usually people will set up right over here, and you can just send the Riptire, like what happened, got both the healers right over the top. You can go right over the top and catch people in that little corner. So when the Riptire happens, it forces the enemy, if they do it well, to play all the way back into their spawn, which resets them hard. Even if you don't get a kill, it gives your DPS so much space, your Pharaoh to get so much space to just hit rockets and stuff. Dread uses his bubble, and they're pushing in without the bubble, which isn't going to work out. But the EMP is consistently pushing Dread into the right spot. Dread uses his leap to engage when he could have just walked up into them. That's what he should have done, and then used his leap to when someone tries to escape, to pursue or to escape if too much damage is coming through. They wall off to be able to reset better. But the Pharaoh is going to engage, and it's probably going to end up with a stagger. I'm seeing Dread with just he's not able to use his leaps effectively, and that's what's costing them a lot. This is a good wall. See, it walls off line of sight, but the Genji dashes over to try and take people out, and he gets the. Oops, sorry. He does well, but if they had focused him, that would have gone a very different story. They need to get a point. They do. I think they're going to be able to take this as long as they can take out that Pharaoh. Yep. So they're going to take the point solely because P-Ware was able to get a good blade, but they didn't seem to coordinate that well. You want, when the blade is going through, you want your tanks to be in there too to distract people and allow the blade to not take as much fire, but Genji just dashed in by himself. The Orisa must have already been a little low, which allowed him to take that. Immediately, red team switches to the dive comp on defense. That's what you need to do. But as you can see, all of their ults are so low compared to... I mean, the other team is low too because they used all their ults to take that, which I don't think they needed to do. But at least they have some up. All the other red team had to hard reset, and that's rough. Their ult economy is now not good. The Mei wall seemed to be messed up there, but... Anna's playing far back, which is good. Zen's playing a little far forward. The monkey tries to dive her and comes in. The diva comes in to support, and the Genji's kind of coming in too, but they don't seem to be focusing the same target. They get down the monkey, though, which is good. The tracer is kind of messing with their backlines, but the diva's there to peel. Monkey should not be dealing with the tracer. He should be jumping up at the Zen and trying to, or maybe on the Genji or something like that. They should leave it to the diva to get the tracer out of position. They freeze the diva, which is going to get her out of the mech, and then they freeze on point. That's going to cause Goldman to get frozen, and he's going to go down there, and they're going to take that point. And now blue team has a gigantic ult advantage. Red team is still struggling on that front because they hard reset with their characters. They had to. They switched from the anti-dive to the dive comp on the second Streets phase. But now the Streets phase is over, and they might just switch back because dive is this third point is one of the points that dive is not great at because there's no real spots to drop down on them from except that last little bit where there's some stairs. Looks like Goldman gets smacked off, but Hot Sauce sticks a grenade, and they might actually be able to take this back. Let's see if P-Ware can get another blade. Gets a slash in. Can he get the other Genji? Doesn't look like it, and they're able to reset. They're going to push forward a little bit. Blue team needs to just run all the way back. But it looks, I think that's their Moira that's playing a little bit farther forward. I don't know. I think she's trying to get in position to jump on point, but they have the monkey and the diva. Monkey can jump on point easily. Them pushing forward like that, it's a problem. They get good distractions in the back line. The ult gets Tig, and so both the tanks are down, that's good, but they pop Transcendence, which is going to keep them alive on this point, which will allow them to get some good damage in there at the end. Mercy ults from far away to try and get on point, but I think they're going to be able to take this point. Blue team will. They got to focus the Genji and Tracer down, and the tanks are trying to catch up, but it's just going to be stagger after stagger now unless they can't take down this Tracer. Hot Sauce just running around. Finally, they get him down, but now the tanks are on point. Goldman ults. I don't know if that's the best use of the ults. It's just the tanks on point. I don't know if they're going to be able to do things. Now they're dropping self-destruct. again, I don't know if that's the best option. You're dropping a lot of ults here when it's already kind of a lost fight. You lost both your supports. How are you going to be able to take this back? I don't think it's going to go well. And then Peware, they won the fight, drops a Dragon Blade. There's the ult spending here is atrocious, to be honest. I mean, I'm guilty of it sometimes too, and so I'm not saying that it's like you guys are just ridiculous for doing this, but yeah. Jack left the game. See if there's a pause in here soon. I would assume there would be. Yeah. So the ults there were rough. I should have counted them because that was a lot to spend. When it wasn't necessary. Looks like red team switches back. So I guess it does make sense. The red team did good. I take most of that back. I was confused about their ult usage there, but they're resetting, so they kind of just had to use their ults. And that's unfortunate. Like, even though you got your ults off, it's still unfortunate that you had to use them to reset there. You're switching to the Rein Zarya for this last point, which is a good comp with the Jug. But something that I hear talked about a lot is gradual resets. You want to be able to use your ults in a battle you'll win and then switch off at a different point. You don't want to reset your ult economy all the way if you're not like, and so you might have a crappy composition with a Winston Zarya for a little bit or something like that. But it's better than completely resetting your ult economy. If you look at their team right now, they're at 6%, 2%, 4%, 8%, 21%. The only person who has their ult is, like, no one else is close. It's Hot Sauce. Whereas the other team, they have the D.Va. I guess it's a good time because they lost a player that's going to reset their ult. But, Peware wasted his ult, and I didn't see Dread use his ult, but he might have. And I know May used her ult, so I guess that was a good time because you're kind of similar. Hot Sauce with the Tracer has the sticky bomb, and they have the D.Va ult to keep her alive. But I don't know. That I feel like this Eichenwalde is rough. On first point, if you want to run the counter dive, you want the Orisa, Hog, but then second point, you want Winston D.Va, and then third point, you could run Orisa again, I guess, but you have to switch again, and so it's just reset after reset after reset, or you have to stick with a, person who, sorry, I'm getting distracted a little bit. Or you have to stick with a team comp that's not good on the map, and that's just rough. So either you have to commit, we're probably going to lose first point, but we're going to have the dive up, and we're going to have ults up that we might be able to take Streets phase, or you stick with the Rein Zarya or the Orisa Hog through second point, so you have ults on third and try to keep third. But yeah, it's for sure rough. Dive on this last point isn't great because on defense it can be good. So like they can make it work. There's a stairs behind us, and there's this high ground that's like to our left right here on the screen, and you can drop down from those. And there's the chandelier, but to be honest, it's not great. And on attack, it's basically impossible because there's no high ground to contest. There's no high ground to jump to. And that's why the Rein Zarya is really good on this, is because it's so horizontal they can keep that. They throw the Ultin trying to replicate what Tig does, and they get the Zen with it. That's big. And then they take down the Rein. That's great. Jack of Hearts is still, I think, coming back with the... No, Jack is here. Okay, so now it's just Tracer. Tracer throws the Pulse Bomb and gets the May. May's not able to get away. Both DPS ults come in and do a hard reset. They need one. Here, you just gotta die on point. D.Va, you just gotta die. Shoot into them until they kill you, because you can't get your mech back at that point. You want to regroup with your team. So there was just good DPS ults there. The tire was close enough that it was just able to jump on them and
10
get the damage,
seconds
and the pulse
remaining.
bomb on the Mei, realizing that she didn't have Ice Cube and able to just land it at her feet even if it didn't stick. That was well done. Alright, they dive in, they're looking at junk. Winston gets pushed back. Immediately the mech gets taken out. The ice wall walls off Ryan, but looks like it goes down before they can capitalize on it. And one by one, they're just taken out. Yeah, dive on attack on this point is not great, especially with this team comp that is anti-dive. Um, so, like, team comps was the main thing that was struggling there.
Play of the
I don't know,
game.
like having to hard reset your ults, let them take second point.
Surrender to
But
my
your
will.
ult being bad for attack on this point is rough. So just
Double kill. Triple
just
kill.
ult problems. I mean, there was a couple things like the tanks had troubles. Both the main tanks on both sides had trouble with their leaps, leap management. Um, but yeah, I mean, good
Epic.
game.
Mission accomplished.